So many people think that reference checks are not very useful because you actually don't get new information. You just can confirm that your candidate was a good one. And some people say that, well, you never find out anything about red flags with the candidate because you usually call to people the candidate has introduced you, and they wouldn't mention anyone who would be critical about them. So they are recommending to talk to people who would say that this is a great candidate. And more or less, I can agree. This is a usual practice that people either don't do this reference checks at all, or when they do it, they might do it superficial way, like this executive in this video, or they might delegate doing the reference checking to someone else. And this someone else might not be well prepared as well to reference checking. And then it happens that the references are checked, but the report is not very meaningful, and the executive maybe doesn't read it at all, and so on and so on. So there is lots of problems with reference checking. And then there are other people who actually say that reference checks are really, really good, that they are actually better than interviews. And some people also even say that you can skip the interviews, but you do the reference checks and do many of them, and you can make your hiring decision based on these. So there are really two sides and two kinds of opinions here. Let's check our participants today. Let's do a quiz and see what you think.
Okay, so I'm gonna end the poll now and share the results. So what do you think about this?
Say that it's no, yeah.
Yes.
There is one person who argues this, that reference checks are better, and says that he would actually do without interviews if he had a choice. And this person is not just someone, he's very well-known entrepreneur and manager. He's the founder of LinkedIn and co-founder of PayPal. Let's see what he says about this thing.
In order to emphasize to you the importance of reference checking, if I had to pick between reference checking and interviewing, I would pick reference checking, right? I have actually made calls to candidates before when I'm hiring and said, I've actually already done the references and I would offer you a job. Would you come in and talk to me, right? Because, so for example, a technique that I will frequently do when I'm trying to evaluate for an important position is I'll see if I know 3 to 5 people that would know this candidate, and I'd send them an email saying, hey, I'm thinking about whether or not I should reach out to this person for this job. Give me a number from 1 to 10 on the person. Now, what I'm usually expecting as the negative reference is like a 7 or 7.5, which is I don't want to put something in an email that seems like I'm actually in fact saying this person's not good for it, because who knows where the email ends up. But I'll say something, and that's of course that's a negative. An 8 or a 9 is positive. Part of the reason why you do it for a number of people, because you kind of see what the blend is. A 10 or lower than a 7 will usually get a detailed response from me, because a 10 will be like, oh, you really think this is the best person in the world for this? Or one of the 2 or 3, right? As a way of kind of checking, and sometimes that's the answer, in which case you may move very fast. And if the person writes a 2 or 3, and if they're a close friend of mine, or they know that I would never forward this to anyone, because of course I wouldn't, then of course I understand that's the, oh God, radioactive, stay away. And that will guide even before I start interviewing. And in referencing, what you want to do is, if you haven't gotten to a negative reference on anyone in the world, you really haven't referenced enough. Sometimes you kind of say, look, I have enough good references that it's fine. Like, I'm sure there's a negative reference I can find my way to, but like even finding, unless I found out that they were an axe murderer or something, the overall balance of referencing is good enough that it's just like the expense of finding the negative reference is challenging. everybody has a negative reference, right? And so, and sometimes you go, oh, right, that negative reference, like this person is really, really focused on intense process. Well, intense process, 6-person company, et cetera, that's a problem. Intense process, you're now scaling an operations center that really needs to never go down. Oh, actually, that could be a very good fit, right? So those are the kinds of things that you're doing, and referencing, like literally, lots of people say, oh, I reference, and they don't. Because they'll say, oh, Matt, who are the people I should call to let me know about you? Okay. And if Matt can't provide 1 or 2 people who would say good things, of course that's a negative tell. But most people can do that.
Okay, there was quite many interesting things here. So obviously, this manager in this video had heard about this 1 to 10 thing, but he had got it all wrong. First, as you noticed, or please notice what Reid Hoffman was telling about how he uses this 1 to 10 thing. It's for facilitating the discussion. So if someone puts 7, which he considers like a negative reference, then he would ask, what does it mean? And he wouldn't make the decision when, well, hey, no one gave a 10, so I have to decline this candidate. This is nonsense. You can just be sure that most people won't rate anyone as 10. So this was one of the important points here. The second important point is that he was calling to people he knew well. So you would assume that they would know this Reid Hoffman well as well. So you call to a friend more or less, and you can discuss with them. In most cases, in checking the references, this is not the case. You're calling to another executive who doesn't know you, and doesn't know the job. So let's go forward with my presentation. Now the truth. That's what I think. I think that reference checks are useful and you should do them always, but they can also be harmful if done incorrectly. And you saw a bad example. If you decline someone based on not enough information, this is a bad decision, of course. And you could also ask superficial questions and say, well, this is my guy, and make the hiring decision, which is not a good decision.